Let's move to this now. On the 7th of September, director Thabang Moleya hosted a filmmaking masterclass at Atlas Studios in Johannesburg. Now, this event attracted a large audience of enthusiastic participants from throughout South Africa, along with visitors from Namibia and Swaziland, thereby establishing a new benchmark in creative education. The event's impact was further enhanced by an exceptional panel who collectively explored the opportunities present within the film industry. Thabang joins us now to unpack this further. Thabang, good to have you in the studio, especially joining us so late. But tell us a bit more about this masterclass. What inspired the project and what message were you trying to drive through this particular campaign?
So, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here. For me, you know, when I studied film schooling, when I studied film in Cape Town, I really struggled to pay for my tuition fees. I was fortunate enough that City Varsity in Cape Town gave me a scholarship for my second year and for my third year. So all I paid for, well, my mom, all she paid for was my first year. So I've always known that film education and film institutions are overpriced. And that the average black child who wants to tell stories often finds themselves crippled by this financial burden. What the aim of the masterclass was to do was to kind of give a free education.
Yeah.
Firstly, I made sure that the learners or the young people that were coming through didn't have to pay for the masterclass. We had a seating of about 350 seats that were available in the studio for us. We had a capacity of up to 280 people that came through, and it was all for free. The main goal was education is meant to be for free. And it was my way of saying, I've been directing for 22 years in this industry, and the success of Lobola Man and the success of Soon Comes Night and other kind of shows and movies that I've released on various platforms, it was just for me to pay homage to the industry, and the only way I feel I can do that is by giving back, and by giving back in a way of doing free education.
So we'll delve into some of the projects that you've worked on, but you mentioned an important point about having the money to rather get training or even get formal education regarding film.
Right.
Maybe let's speak to some of the challenges, especially that young people encounter when trying to break into the industry.
A lot of, you know, what we do find, you know, I do find that when we hear phrases like we don't have Mzansi wood, I always kind of say, how are we plowing back into the industry?
Yeah.
Firstly, there's a question of access. So after these kids have paid 2 to 3 years and in tuition fees over $250,000, you'll find that a lot of these kids don't even stay in Joburg, so their parents have to pay for their relocation. So that is an education, that's accommodation, that's groceries, and that's transport to and from school if you're not living in a facility that's close to the school. Then you do 2 to 3 years. After doing 2 to 3 years, then you can't even break into the industry. So you fought and had arguments with your parents about this industry that you want to study. You study it, they break their backs trying to get you through the school, and then you find that there's no opportunities, right? And I've found that, you know, with Siriti Films, what we stand for empowerment, upliftment of the black child, of black females, especially in this industry. So when we do projects, when we did projects like Gomorrah, for example, we really were about uprooting and bringing new talent to the screen. So a lot of the actors were new faces, mixed along with like the legends, like Mom Kony.
Yeah.
But then what we also did behind the camera was that we ensured that we were doing skills upliftment, right? And that people that were trainees could then move into those positions and become heads of their departments.
Yeah.
You know, and it needs to be a mandate across all industry. It needs to be a mandate across all production houses. There needs to be a spreadsheet that says these are the people that I've trained. This is the amount of hours and months that they put into this project, and from this position they'll get elevated to that position. But also in the budgets. So when we get a budget to do a show, there needs to be a line item for development, right? Because that's the only way we're going to grow this industry, and the only way that these young kids are going to have an opportunity to break in. And right now, there's a huge gap, and there's huge unemployment with youth that have studied film and TV, and it saddens me because everyone deserves an opportunity to tell their story.
Yeah. it's very interesting that you also give us your observations regarding the high unemployment rate in this country, especially affecting young people. Maybe let's speak to a response to that particular dilemma. There are a number of roles and responsibilities that come with a production, for instance.
Right.
Let's speak about what informs or what informed this masterclass. What kind of training was involved here?
So what I did in the masterclass was that I talked about my 22 years in the industry.
Yeah.
And then I also did a breakdown of some of the scenes on Lobola Man. So I looked at how to put a pitch document together. So if you have a script of a movie, how to envision that movie and how to plan and prepare and how to execute that movie. I then had a panel discussion with my co-business owner, Lian Kumalo, and Lindo Langa, who is a young entrepreneur. Not young entrepreneur, he's a young filmmaker that I've been mentoring for the past 3 to 4 years. He's also an entrepreneur, he's very business-minded, but he's a director that I really believe in, and I met him in Durban and he relocated to Joburg, and I've had him under my wing since. So we had a panel discussion with the two of them, and then we also had a panel discussion because I thought it was important to have a panel discussion that was very much based on what's behind the camera and what's in front of camera. So we spoke to actors like Gwenzo, we spoke to actors like Sandile, we spoke to actors like Annalisa, who gave their kind of experience on what it means to prepare for an audition, their challenges in the industry, and advice that they'd give to young individuals. You know, and these masterclasses, the first one was at Atlas Studios. The idea is to continue. What we've been struggling with is sponsorship. Because it was the first one that we did, a lot of the financial investments we had to do ourselves. But moving forward, it's about finding the right brands and finding the right partners that really want to see a change in economic youth development.
How important is this idea of collaboration, especially when it comes to not only ensuring that such a masterclass happens, but that it's actually funded so it can continue way beyond just a single-day event, for instance?
Yeah, it's very important, but you know, you understand that with certain investors or brands or certain collaborations that you find, a lot of them want a case study, right? A lot of them want a proof of concept. They want to know that this thing can work. So now that we've shown that, you know, I had students that are interested in film and TV that were coming from Swaziland, that came from Botswana, that came from different provinces, and I couldn't believe it because these kids had taken public transport to come to Atlas Studios for 4 or 5 hours. And it's just an indication of their love and passion for this industry.
What kind of feedback did you get after hosting this masterclass? And how does it inform the next steps, if you will?
The next steps is to try and move the masterclass to Durban. So I'm going to try and do another one. Hopefully the right people are watching this show right now. But I'm going to try and move it to Durban. Then I'm going to do Cape Town. And then I'm going to do Limpopo. And other provinces, and then come back to Joburg. The idea is to have these masterclasses every 3 months. And the idea is that once we start putting a price allocation to a seat, that companies can use their CSI money to buy seats for kids. So if I say it's 350 for a seat or 250 for a seat at the next masterclass, the idea is that business companies, investors can say, okay, we're going to buy 10 seats for this university, or we're going to buy 20 seats for this institution. That's the idea.
So as we wrap up, 22 years in the industry, you've worked on a number of productions. Let's speak about the latest film, The Lobola Man.
Yes.
What's that about?
So Lobola Man is, you know, it's such a beautiful story. It was written by Kat from Burnt Onion. And what's so beautiful about it is that he took South Africa, we took South African culture, something that we practiced as a tradition for many years, and we spun that onto a story. We said, what if there's a Lobola man who is a crook, right? What if there was someone who pretends you buy his services for him to be a Lobola man at your negotiations? And people responded in such a beautiful and positive way because people were seeing a reflection of themselves, a culture that they know, they could identify, they could find humor in it. And it's done successfully. It's really done well locally and internationally. It ended up as number 7 on the global charts of Netflix. So it's performed really, really well. Well, we're looking at doing a sequel. Who knows?